Hey there. Have you ever stumbled across something so small, so seemingly innocent, that it turned your entire world upside down? I'm Linda, a 38-year-old mom from Indiana, and that's exactly what happened to me at my family's annual reunion this summer. We were just flipping through old photo albums, laughing over faded Polaroids, when I found a picture that stopped me cold. It wasn't just a snapshot. It was a bombshell, a secret that's been buried for decades, and it ripped open old wounds between me and my brother, Mike, right in front of everyone. Now, I'm questioning everything I thought I knew about my family, and I don't know if we'll ever recover. I'm still shaking as I tell you this, because what I uncovered in that dusty album isn't just about the past. It's threatening to destroy what little connection we have left. If you've ever had a family secret blow up in your face, or if you fought to hold on to someone who's slipping away, you'll understand why I'm pouring my heart out here. Stick with me, because this story isn't just about old photos. It's about whether I can save my family before it's too late. Let's go back to that day, to the moment everything changed. I've always loved our family reunions. Every summer, for as long as I can remember, my whole extended family, cousins, aunts, uncles, and whoever else could make it, would pile into my late grandma's old farmhouse in Bloomington, Indiana. It's this big, creaky house with peeling white paint and a wraparound porch, sitting on a couple of acres of land just outside town. The air always smells like fresh-cut grass and barbecue, and the sound of cicadas buzzing in the trees takes me right back to being a kid. We'd spend the day eating too much potato salad, playing horseshoes in the backyard, and telling the same old stories about Grandpa's fishing trips or how Aunt Carol once burned the Thanksgiving turkey. It's tradition, you know? A slice of normalcy in a world that's always changing too fast. But this year, that tradition turned into a battlefield, and I'm still trying to pick up the pieces. I'm Linda, by the way. I'm 38, a single mom to a 10-year-old boy named Ethan, and I work as a nurse at the local hospital. Life's been a grind lately, long shifts, bills piling up, and trying to be both mom and dad to Ethan since my ex walked out 5 years ago. But the family reunion was supposed to be my escape, a chance to recharge and feel connected to something bigger than my day-to-day struggles. I grew up in Bloomington, and even though I moved to a nearby town after high school, coming back to Grandma's house always feels like coming home. Or at least, it used to. This year, on a sticky July afternoon in 2023, that feeling of home got shattered, and it all started with a box of old photographs. My brother Mike was there too, which was a surprise in itself. Mike's 42, 4 years older than me, and we've barely spoken in over a decade. Growing up, we were thick as thieves. He was the cool big brother who'd sneak me candy when mom wasn't looking, teach me how to ride a bike, and stick up for me when the neighborhood kids got mean. We'd spend hours exploring the woods behind Grandma's house, pretending we were on grand adventures, building forts out of sticks, and dreaming up stories about buried treasure. But something changed when we hit our teens. Mike got distant, moody, started hanging with a rough crowd, and by the time I was in high school, he was barely around. He moved out at 18, took off to Chicago, and only came back for holidays, if that. When Grandma passed away 8 years ago, he didn't even show up for the funeral. I was furious, hurt, and honestly, I felt abandoned. I've carried that resentment ever since, like a stone in my chest, heavy and cold. I've tried reaching out over the years, sending texts or leaving voicemails on his birthday, but I'd get nothing back, or just a curt, "I'm fine, thanks," if I was lucky. Mom always said to give him time, that he was dealing with his own demons, but I couldn't help feeling like he'd just written me off, like I wasn't worth his effort. So when he showed up at the reunion this year, unannounced, pulling into the driveway in his beat-up Chevy with a half-hearted wave, I didn't know what to feel. Part of me wanted to run over and hug him, to pretend the last 10 years hadn't happened. But another part, the bigger part, wanted to turn away, to protect myself from getting hurt again. I settled for a polite nod and busied myself with setting up the picnic tables, avoiding his eyes. The tension was thick, and I think everyone felt it, even if they didn't say anything. The day started out fine, all things considered. The sun was blazing, kids were running around with water balloons, and Uncle Jim was manning the grill, flipping burgers with his usual bad jokes. Mike kept to himself mostly, sitting on the porch with a beer, watching everyone like he was a stranger at his own family's party. I caught myself stealing glances at him, wondering what he was thinking, if he even wanted to be there. He looked older than I remembered, lines around his eyes, a scruffy beard, and a weariness in his posture that made my heart ache despite myself. I wanted to ask him why he'd come back after all this time, but every time I thought about approaching him, my throat closed up. So I stayed busy, helping Mom with the food and chasing after Ethan, pretending everything was normal. Around mid-afternoon, after we'd all stuffed ourselves with hot dogs and watermelon, someone suggested digging out the old photo albums. It's something we do every few years at the reunion. Pull out these dusty, leather-bound books from Grandma's attic and pass them around, laughing at bad haircuts and outdated clothes. Mom hauled a couple of boxes down from upstairs, and we all gathered in the living room, the air conditioning barely keeping up with the heat. I sat on the couch with Ethan on my lap, flipping through pages of faded memories. There were pictures of me and Mike as kids, gap-toothed and grinning, holding up fish we'd caught in the creek. There were shots of mom and dad at their wedding, looking so young it was almost hard to believe. And of course, tons of grandma, always with a spatula or a garden trowel in hand, smiling like she knew something the rest of us didn't. I was starting to relax, even laughing a little with my cousins over a particularly embarrassing photo of me in a neon tracksuit from the 90s, when I turned a page and froze. Tucked between two plastic sleeves was a small, worn Polaroid I'd never seen before. It was a picture of Mike, maybe 16 or 17, standing in front of Grandma's house with a girl I didn't recognize. She had dark hair, a shy smile, and her arm was around Mike's waist. He looked happy, in a way I hadn't seen in years, but also nervous, like he was hiding something. On the back of the photo, in Grandma's shaky handwriting, were the words, Mike and Jenny, 98. My stomach dropped. I didn't know any Jenny, and Mike had never mentioned a girlfriend from back then. But it wasn't just the mystery of the girl that hit me. It was the date. 1998. That was the year Mike started pulling away, the year everything between us changed. I sat there, holding the photo, my mind racing. Who was this girl? Why had Grandma kept this picture hidden away, not even in the main album, but slipped between pages like a secret? I glanced over at Mike, still on the porch, oblivious to what I'd found. My heart was pounding, a mix of curiosity and dread bubbling up inside me. I wanted to ask Mom about it, but she was in the kitchen, and I didn't want to make a scene in front of everyone. So I kept flipping through the album, pretending to be engrossed, while my thoughts spun out of control. I started remembering little things from that time. How Mike would disappear for hours without explanation. How he'd get these cryptic phone calls and hang up quick if I walked into the room. I'd always assumed it was just teenage rebellion, maybe drugs or trouble with his friends. But now, seeing this photo, I wondered if there was more to the story, something I'd missed all these years. The rest of the afternoon, I couldn't shake the image of that picture. I kept it tucked in my pocket, the edges worn from how many times I'd run my fingers over it. I watched Mike from a distance, trying to read his face, wondering if he even remembered this Jenny, or if he'd buried that part of his life so deep he'd never talk about it. I felt a surge of anger, too. Anger that he'd shut me out back then, that he'd left me to deal with our family struggles while he ran off to Chicago, that he couldn't even give me a straight answer about why he'd come back now. But under that anger was something softer, something sadder. I missed him. I missed the brother who'd been my protector, my best friend. And I hated myself for still caring, for still hoping we could fix this, even after all the hurt. I started digging through my memories, trying to piece together what I knew about Mike's life in '98. I was only 13 then, wrapped up in my own middle school drama, but I remembered how Mom and Dad would argue about him late at night, their voices carrying through the thin walls of our house. Dad would say things like, he's throwing his life away, and Mom would cry, begging him to give Mike a chance. I never knew what they were talking about, and I was too scared to ask. I just knew Mike was gone more than he was home, and when he was there, he'd lock himself in his room, blasting Nirvana so loud I could feel the bass through the floor. I'd knock sometimes, just wanting to talk, but he'd yell at me to go away. I stopped knocking after a while. Maybe I should have kept trying. Maybe if I had, we wouldn't be strangers now. As the sun started to dip low, painting the sky over Bloomington in shades of orange and pink, I found myself wandering out to the old swing set in the backyard. It's been there since I was a kid, rusted now, but still standing, creaking under my weight as I sat down. I used to swing with Mike here, seeing who could go higher, laughing until we were dizzy. Now, I just sat, the photo still in my pocket, feeling the weight of all the years between us. I thought about Ethan, too, how I'd do anything to keep him from feeling the kind of loneliness I felt without Mike in my life. I wondered if Mike ever thought about me, if he regretted leaving, or if he'd just moved on like I never mattered. I decided I couldn't keep this to myself anymore. Around dusk, when most of the family had either gone home or settled inside to watch a baseball game, I saw Mike alone by the grill, poking at the dying embers with a stick. My heart was in my throat, but I forced myself to walk over. I didn't pull out the photo, not yet, but I asked him, point blank, why he'd come back after all this time. He didn't look at me, just kept staring at the coals, and after a long pause, he said he didn't know, that he just felt like he had to. His voice was rough, like he hadn't spoken much that day, and I could tell there was more he wasn't saying. I wanted to push, to demand answers, but something in his slumped shoulders stopped me. Instead, I just stood there, the silence between us heavier than ever. That night, after Ethan was asleep on a cot in Grandma's old guest room, I sat up in the dark, the photo on the nightstand beside me. I couldn't stop thinking about Jenny, about what she meant to Mike, about why Grandma had written their names on the back like it was something important. I started to wonder if this was the key to understanding why Mike had changed, why he'd left us behind. Maybe Jenny was someone he'd loved, someone he'd lost, and the pain of it had driven him away. Or maybe it was something darker, something he was ashamed of, something he couldn't face. I felt a pang of guilt for assuming the worst about him all these years, for not trying harder to reach out. But I also felt betrayed, because if there was a secret, why hadn't he trusted me with it? I'm his sister. Didn't that mean anything? I started piecing together more memories as I lay there, the crickets chirping outside the open window. I remembered a fight Mike had with Dad right before he moved out. Something about taking responsibility. I'd been in the next room, pretending to do homework, but I heard every word. Dad was yelling, saying Mike had made a mess and needed to fix it. And Mike just kept saying, I can't. I didn't know what they meant, and I was too young to ask. But now, looking back, I wondered if it had to do with Jenny. Had something happened between them? Had Mike gotten into trouble, or had he hurt her somehow? The possibilities churned in my mind, each one worse than the last, and I hated myself for even thinking them. But I couldn't stop. The next morning, I made a decision. I wasn't going to confront Mike in front of the family. There were still a few relatives lingering for breakfast, but I needed answers. I slipped the photo into my purse and waited until we were packing up to leave. Mike was loading his stuff into his truck, and I walked over, my hands trembling. I didn't show him the picture right away. Instead, I asked if we could talk, really talk, before he left. He looked at me then, really looked at me, for the first time all weekend, and I saw something in his eyes, regret, maybe, or fear. He nodded, but said he had to get back to Chicago, that he'd call me later. I didn't believe him. I've heard that promise before. But before he got in his truck, I pulled out the photo and held it up, just for a second, long enough for him to see it. His face went pale, and he looked away, muttering something about not wanting to talk about the past. Then he drove off, leaving me standing there in the dust, the photo still in my hand. I've been replaying that moment over and over since I got home. I don't know what the photo means, not really, but I know it's important. I know it's tied to why Mike left, why he's been so distant, why he can't seem to look me in the eye. I've thought about calling him, demanding he tell me who Jenny is and what happened in '98, but every time I pick up the phone, I freeze. What if the truth is worse than I can handle? What if it's something that breaks us for good? But then I think about Ethan, about how I want him to grow up with family, with an uncle who's there for him, not just a name on a Christmas card. I want to fix this, for him, for me, for whatever's left of the bond Mike and I used to have. I've been looking at other old photos too, ones I brought home from the reunion, trying to find more clues. There's nothing else about Jenny, but every picture of Mike from back then shows a kid who's carrying something heavy, something I didn't see at the time. I've started writing down memories, little things I'd forgotten, hoping they'll help me understand. I've even thought about asking Mom, but I'm scared of what she might say, or worse, what she might not say. She's always been protective of Mike, even when he didn't deserve it, and I don't know if she'd tell me the truth. I feel like I'm digging into a wound that's never healed, and I don't know if I'm making it better or worse. I keep thinking about Grandma, too. She must have known something, or she wouldn't have kept that photo, wouldn't have written their names on the back. I wish I could ask her, but she's been gone for years, and all I have are her old albums and the echoes of her voice telling me to take care of your brother, Linda. I've failed at that, haven't I? I let him slip away, let my own hurt and anger build a wall between us, and now I don't know if I can tear it down. But I want to. God, I want to. I want to know who Jenny was, what she meant to Mike, and why he's carried that pain, or shame, or whatever it is, all these years. I want to tell him I'm sorry for giving up on him, for not fighting harder to keep him in my life. But I'm scared. Scared he'll push me away again. Scared I'll lose him for good this time. I've been walking around Bloomington in my mind. Even though I'm back home now, I can still see Grandma's house, the sagging porch swing, the gravel driveway where Mike's truck kicked up dust as he left. I can smell the barbecue, hear the laughter of my cousins, feel the sticky heat of that Indiana summer day. It's like I'm stuck in that moment, replaying every detail, trying to figure out where I went wrong and if there's still a chance to make it right. I've been holding on to that photo of Mike and Jenny like it's a lifeline, even though it's also the thing that's tearing me apart. I keep it on my kitchen table now, next to a stack of Bill's and Ethan's school drawings, a constant reminder of the questions I don't have answers to. Over the next few days, I couldn't focus on anything else. Work was a blur, checking vitals, comforting patients, all while my mind was miles away, back in Bloomington, back with Mike. Ethan noticed something was off, too. He's a perceptive kid, always has been. One night, as I was tucking him into bed, he asked why I looked so sad. I didn't know how to explain it, so I just hugged him a little tighter and said I was missing someone. He didn't push, but I could tell he was worried. That made me feel even worse. I don't want him carrying my burdens, but I also don't want him growing up without knowing his uncle, without understanding why our family feels so broken. I finally worked up the courage to call Mom a week after the reunion. I didn't tell her about the photo right away. I wasn't sure I wanted to open that can of worms, but I asked if she knew why Mike had been so distant all these years. Her voice got quiet on the other end of the line, the way it does when she's hiding something. She said Mike had a hard time as a teenager, that he'd made some mistakes, but she wouldn't go into details. He needs to tell you himself, Linda, she said, and I could hear the weight in her words. I pressed a little, asking if it had to do with a girl, with someone named Jenny, and there was this long pause before she sighed and said, I think you should talk to your brother. That was it. She wouldn't say more, and I hung up feeling more frustrated than ever. But her reaction confirmed it. There was something to this Jenny, something big, and Mom knew about it. I sat with that for a couple of days, wrestling with whether to call Mike. I wrote out what I wanted to say, scratched it out, wrote it again. I didn't want to come off angry or accusatory. I just wanted the truth. But every time I dialed his number, my finger hovered over the call button, and I'd chicken out. What if he didn't answer? What if he did, and he told me something I couldn't handle? I kept imagining the worst. Maybe Jenny had been pregnant, and Mike had walked away. Maybe something tragic had happened to her, and he blamed himself. Or maybe it was simpler, and he just didn't want me in his life anymore. That last thought hurt the most, because it meant all my hoping, all my longing to reconnect, might be for nothing. In the end, I didn't call. I couldn't bring myself to do it. Instead, I wrote him a letter. I don't even know if people write letters anymore, but it felt right, like putting pen to paper would make my words more real, more honest. I told him I'd found the photo at the reunion, that I didn't know who Jenny was, but I could tell she meant something to him. I told him I missed him, that I'd missed him every day for the last 10 years, and that I was sorry if I'd ever made him feel like he couldn't talk to me. I wrote about the swing set, the forts in the woods, the way he used to make me laugh until my sides hurt. I said I didn't care what had happened in the past. I just wanted my brother back. I didn't ask for explanations, though I wanted them. I just asked him to reach out, to meet me halfway. I sealed the letter with shaky hands, slipped the photo inside, and mailed it to the last address I had for him in Chicago. I don't even know if he still lives there, but it was all I could do. It's been 2 weeks since I sent that letter, and I haven't heard back. Every day, I check the mailbox with this stupid, desperate hope, but there's nothing. No call, no text, no letter in return. I keep telling myself he might not have gotten it, or maybe he needs time to process, but deep down, I'm terrified he's just ignoring me again. I've started having dreams about him, dreams where we're kids again, running through the woods behind Grandma's house. But when I turn to look at him, he's gone. I wake up with this ache in my chest, like I've lost him all over again. I've been thinking a lot about what family means, too. Growing up, I thought it was this unbreakable thing, a bond that could weather anything. But now I see how fragile it is, how easy it is to let resentment and silence build walls you can't climb over. I don't want that for me and Mike. I don't want Ethan to look at old photos one day and wonder why his uncle was never around. I want to fight for this, even if it hurts, even if I don't get the answers I'm looking for. But I don't know how to keep fighting when I'm met with nothing but silence. So here I am, sitting at my kitchen table late at night, the house quiet except for the hum of the fridge, staring at a stack of old family photos I brought back from the reunion. I've been going through them again, looking for any other clues about Jenny, about Mike, about what I might have missed. There's nothing, just smiling faces frozen in time, a past that feels so far away now. I keep coming back to one picture of me and Mike, taken when I was about 5 and he was 9. We're on the porch at Grandma's, eating popsicles, our faces sticky and grinning. I look at that little girl and wonder how she'd feel if she knew her big brother would one day disappear from her life. I wonder if she'd fight harder than I have. I don't know what's next. I don't know if Mike will ever respond, if I'll ever learn who Jenny was or why that photo shook him so much. I don't know if I'll get the chance to sit down with him, to really talk, to rebuild even a piece of what we lost. But I'm not ready to give up. I can't be. I've decided I'm going to keep reaching out, even if it's just a text every few months, a card on his birthday, something to let him know I'm still here. I'm going to keep those memories of us alive, for me and for Ethan, because they're worth holding on to, even if they hurt. And that's where I'm at now, stuck between hope and heartbreak, waiting for a sign that might never come. I'm telling you this because I need to get it out, to make sense of it, but also because I want to know what you think. Have you ever had a family secret come to light and change everything? Have you ever fought to reconnect with someone who's pushed you away? If you were me, would you keep trying with Mike, or would you let it go, accept that some things can't be fixed? I'm torn, and I could really use some advice. How do I reach my brother? How do I heal this wound that's been open for so long? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm reading every single one, because right now, I feel so lost, and I need to know I'm not alone in this. Thanks for listening to my story. It's messy, it's painful, but it's mine. And maybe, just maybe, sharing it is the first step toward finding some kind of peace. I'll keep you updated if anything changes with Mike, if I hear back, if I learn more about Jenny or that photo. Until then, I'm just holding on, hoping for a way back to the family we used to be. So, that's where I'm at, caught between the past and a future I can't predict. I don't know if Mike will ever open up, if I'll ever understand what happened all those years ago, or if we can rebuild even a fraction of what we had. But I'm not giving up, not yet. I can't. If you've made it this far, thank you for hearing me out. Now I want to hear from you. What would you do in my shoes? Should I keep pushing to reconnect with Mike? Or is it time to let go? Have you ever uncovered a family secret that changed everything? And how did you deal with it? Leave your thoughts, your stories, your advice in the comments below. I'm reading every single one, and I need all the help I can get. Don't forget to like and subscribe if this story hit home for you, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any updates. I'll let you know if anything changes, if Mike reaches out, or if I uncover more about that mysterious photo. Until then, take care of yourselves and your families. You never know how much time you've got.